The United Nations Security Council holds immense power. It is tasked with maintaining international peace and security. Its decisions impact the entire world. One of its most potent tools is the veto. This power rests solely in the hands of 5 permanent members: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Russia, and China. With a single vote, any one of these nations can block a resolution. This power, while intended to prevent global conflict, has often been used to advance national interests at the expense of global well-being. The veto power originated in the aftermath of World War II. The world was in ruins. The founding members of the UN sought to prevent another such catastrophe. They granted veto power to the victors of the war, the nations deemed most capable of maintaining peace. These nations were to act as guarantors of global security. However, the world has changed dramatically since 1945. The balance of power has shifted, the needs of the world have evolved, yet the structure of the UN Security Council with its unequal distribution of power remains largely unchanged. Africa, a continent of 54 nations and 1.5 billion people, is conspicuously absent from the ranks of permanent UN Security Council members. This lack of representation is a glaring injustice. African nations have been systematically denied a voice in matters of global significance. They are relegated to the sidelines, their concerns often ignored. This exclusion is a relic of a colonial past, a past where African nations were denied agency and their destinies were decided by others. The absence of African veto power has had profound consequences. Resolutions addressing conflicts on the African continent are often subject to the whims of the permanent 5. These nations may prioritize their own strategic interests over the needs of African people. This dynamic has played out repeatedly, from the Rwandan genocide to the ongoing crisis in Darfur. The lack of African representation on the Security Council has come at a steep human cost. In 2005, African nations came together to demand a more just and equitable UN Security Council. They articulated their demands in the Eswatini Consensus. This document calls for 2 permanent seats for Africa on the Security Council, each with full veto power. It also proposes 5 additional non-permanent seats for the continent. The Eswatini Consensus is a powerful statement of Africa's aspirations for a more democratic and representative world order. Despite widespread support for UN reform, progress has been glacial. The permanent members of the Security Council have been reluctant to relinquish their privileged status. Some have paid lip service to the idea of reform, but concrete action has been lacking. The United States, for instance, has expressed support for African permanent seats, but without veto power. This position falls short of the demands outlined in the Eswatini Consensus. The UN Security Council, in its current form, is an anachronism. It is a relic of a bygone era. Its structure no longer reflects the realities of the 21st century. The time for reform is long overdue. Granting Africa permanent seats with veto power is not merely a matter of fairness, it is a matter of global security and stability. A reformed UN Security Council, one that includes the voices of all nations, would be better equipped to address the pressing challenges facing humanity. It would be more effective in preventing conflict, promoting development, and upholding human rights. The world cannot afford to wait any longer